I put out a tweet earlier today where I was talking about, like, I'm curious if sponsors will come back to Smash next title if the game is a part of the Esports World Cup. Now, obviously, Nintendo will probably never let Smash be part of the Esports World Cup. So it's just kind of like a hypothetical, because if you're not keeping up with what's happening in Street Fighter 6, there's some teams that are really bullish about sponsoring players. It might not just be SSBU, it might be about other things. And they want, you know, like representation because it's a lot of money that they can make for their org, as well as like representation and branding. It's a big thing for esports, even if people don't like that it is in Saudi. You say that, but there's a ton of Saudi investment in Nintendo. All right, you know what? If they show up, they show up. I just doubt it, because Nintendo doesn't give a shit about esports. At least it doesn't feel like they give a shit about esports, you know? But I put out this tweet, and essentially my worry is about something to like keep people from coming back, or like, you know, some sort of prestige of circuit, some sort of, you know, anything like that. How interested sponsors really would be, you know, coming through and coming back to Smash or sticking around. Now, obviously, I might be being a bit more pessimistic than others, because yes, when the new wave comes, once the new game comes, you're gonna get a lot of people who, new audience, new sponsors, all of that jazz. Like, there's gonna be people coming through, there's gonna be a new audience, sponsors are gonna be interested. It's not like we're not gonna get any. My worry is more so, and this isn't to like flame the players, obviously, it's a bit tough to do things both in this economy as well as in terms of need to for this game, because Ultimate is kind of on its last legs for the next few years, I guess, or it's going to be very stagnant. Good friend Trade War said that he's much more optimistic because of the great brand value Smash player adds, and of course next game will have audience. But what I kind of wanted to say with this, and once again, I'm not trying to flame the players because I get it, but it feels like there aren't a ton of top players who are currently like either free agents or work for smaller sponsors that have a big enough brand to be on tier 1 teams, especially if Smash doesn't have a value add in terms of its competitive scene, in terms of a circuit, in terms of bringing money to the scene, that sort of way. What's going to keep the sponsor from sticking around long enough to be relevant in the scene outside of sponsoring that number 1 player? A lot of players, it feels like, aren't really great at making content or like branding themselves in that sort of way. I remember when I was talking with Trade War, he's like, yeah, what about Riddles? He's a very big agent for Street Fighter, was part of Liquid, and Liquid helped him build his content. But like, I looked back, and Riddle's YouTube channel, he was already making content before he was part of Liquid. He was putting in the effort, which I think is something that's severely lacking across the board. When I was looking at like YouTube, or honestly YouTube's the big one. YouTube, like, many players just don't exist outside of just doing Twitch streams, and when they do post something, it's like once a year, and it's like a tournament highlight. I don't know. I feel like the more you put yourself out there to build your brand, to make people give a shit about you as a competitor, is what's going to get people invested. Like, HBox didn't stay with Liquid for this long because he was a good melee player. It's because he was a very good content creator on top of his competitive. I was talking like Cruzy used to be part of Luminosity. I was talking about like how personal brands are all that matter to most orgs for Smash players getting signed. They want marketability. But like, that's my point. A lot of the current age top players just haven't built up a marketability to themselves. And I think right now, you can get such a jump ahead compared to others if you just put in not even like a huge effort, just something. Just put in some sort of effort that isn't just going live and playing ranked games every once in a while. Like, I know content is hard. I know it's not for everyone, but having that brand is so important to just getting that sponsor. And then once the next game comes around, being the player that capitalizes it to get so. I probably have a better chance at getting a sponsor through content than I do than most of these competitors, just because I built the brand for it, which is insane, which is really stupid, to be honest. But yeah, like, just right now, my main thing is like, I'm just worried that we're gonna get to the point of the new game and players aren't really going to be in a good enough spot to be these big new faces for the scene, because frankly, they are probably competing with people with already T1 orgs or stuff like that. Like, you want sponsors, you gotta put in the work that isn't just competing. And I've talked about this not just with other players in the scene or other creators in the scene. I've also talked to this with like people in Rivals, where I was talking to Wisely and he's like, yeah, I have the biggest following in all of Rivals outside of the devs. And Wisely is like a 10K sub YouTube person. Like none of the other players, even Cake Assault, who's been the longest best Rivals player for so long, doesn't have that big of a following. And obviously Rivals is more niche, but it's like content is such a big, important factor to actually grow a scene that even if you're not the most active competitor, or even if your results fall off and you're not number one, because of that presence, you become such a bigger agent because you have a brand. And that's the main point I wanted to get with this. Like, that is my worry. And that's how the sponsors stay at least longer without this. But like right now, I'm a little worried otherwise. Is there any old players who have a T1 org anymore? Yes, Sparkle with FaZe. You might not know this, but Zeta Division is a very, very big organization. So like Akala, Raru, T, who else is Zeta? And Gact. They're all on T1. That, like, Zeta is considered a tier 1 team. E362, yeah, like Japan has tier 1 sponsorships. And like, you might not know it unless you look it up, but T has like an over 100K YouTube like subscribe channel. Gact's one of the biggest Japanese streamers for Smash. NA primarily, it's like FaZe Spargo. I don't even know if LG is considered a tier 1, to be honest. I don't know if they are. Let's look on the side. Let's Google. Is Luminosity Gaming considered a tier 1? I don't know if they are. I assume they are, but I don't know if they are. Yeah, generally considered tier 1 based on what I'm seeing. So LG as well. Any of the LG players as well. But yeah, like obviously don't expect sponsors to come in now. Like, unless they're small teams, you're not finding a huge T1 team that's going to come through and sign the best players in the game. Once the new game comes around, obviously people are going to come back and peek their head. Like their Liquids, like your Cloud9s, like your Falcons, T1. Maybe probably not T1. They only sponsored Leo for like a short period of time. Teams are going to look through. They're going to be very curious. And the players who I feel like have not the strongest results in terms of the top players, but have content, are going to be the ones that sign first.